3 days after the typhoon passed, Leo Vance finally made contact. He sent a brief text message that simply said, "Come pick me up at Clara's place." In the past, a message like that would have had me dropping everything, my heart racing as I rushed to his side without a second thought. But this time was different. I was in the middle of my quiet morning routine, making a small pot of porridge, and I found I had no desire to change my plans. I typed back an equally short reply: "Take a cab home." Half an hour later, the front door opened and Leo walked in, dragging his suitcase behind him. His face was set in a familiar scowl. "I haven't even been home for 5 minutes, and you're already sitting here eating," he said, his voice sharp with annoyance. I paused, my spoon hovering halfway to my mouth, and looked at him. His irritation felt distant, like something happening on a television screen. He pulled off his jacket with a frustrated yank and gestured toward his luggage. "Stop eating and go wash the clothes in my suitcase. The power went out at Clara's house yesterday because of the storm. I haven't even had a decent shower." He was already turning to head toward the bathroom when I spoke, my voice even. "I don't have time. You can put them in the washing machine yourself." He stopped dead in his tracks, turning around slowly to stare at me as if I'd spoken in a foreign language. "Maya Jensen," he said, his tone stern and patronizing. "Are you done with this little tantrum? It was dangerous during the storm, and you took too long to get there. That's why I stayed at Clara's. Do you really think your jealousy is more important than my safety?" I didn't answer. I quietly ate the last spoonful of my porridge, then picked up the bowl and carried it to the kitchen sink. I had no energy or inclination to argue with him. Leo, however, remained in the doorway, watching me with a puzzled expression, as if he were trying to solve a difficult puzzle. After a moment, he spoke again, his voice shifting to a placating tone he used when he felt he needed to justify his actions. "You're still upset about that social media post, aren't you? I already told you it was just a joke," he explained. "Clara's friends were teasing her about being single, so she posted that to save face. It caused some confusion, but when she saw you liked the post, she got scared and deleted it immediately. She even asked me to explain it all to you." He then added with a slight mocking edge to his voice, "You're not getting any younger, Maya. Why are you still getting worked up over things like this with a girl like her?" A small, humorless laugh almost escaped me. Clara Shaw was 28 years old, hardly a child. I was only a year older than her, yet the way Leo spoke made it seem as if I were decades past my prime. Not wanting to waste any more breath on a pointless conversation, I finished washing the bowl and said evenly, "I really don't have time to do your laundry. I have to go out." Leo looked genuinely surprised. Normally, I would have at least put up a fight, arguing with him until I was exhausted and he got his way. Today, my calmness seemed to unnerve him. Just as I moved to leave the kitchen, he stepped in front of me, leaned in, and kissed me. "There," he said, a smug satisfaction in his voice. "Now you can stop being angry." He gave me a sideways glance, confident as always that he still had complete control over my emotions. But I instinctively pushed him away. The gesture, the feeling of his lips on mine, made my stomach turn. Leo had never been affectionate like this, especially not after a disagreement. He never tried to win me over or pretend to apologize when he was in the wrong. The fact that he was doing it now could only be because of Clara. He must have realized that whatever line he was going to cross with her, he had already crossed it during the 3 days they were together. I casually wiped my mouth with the back of my hand and walked to the entryway to put on my shoes. Leo stared at me, his expression shifting from smugness to disbelief. "Maya, what is that supposed to mean? Are you disgusted by me?" "No," I replied, my voice devoid of emotion. "I just like to be clean." He looked like he was about to explode with anger, but before he could say another word, my phone buzzed. The rideshare I had ordered had arrived. Seeing that I was genuinely about to leave, Leo suddenly reached out and grabbed my wrist, a strange mixture of panic and confusion in his eyes. "Where are you going?" he demanded. "To the office," I replied simply. He seemed to let out a breath, then said stiffly, "Cancel the ride. I'll take you." The car he was offering to drive was the one I had bought for him as a gift, a vehicle he almost never let me ride in. This sudden display of consideration was so out of character that my first instinct was to refuse. But before I could respond, he had already grabbed the car keys and walked out the door ahead of me, his behavior as forceful and domineering as ever. Left with little choice, I canceled the ride and followed him downstairs. As soon as I settled into the passenger seat, my eyes fell on something new. It was a small, cartoonish sticker on the dashboard that read, "Reserved for girlfriend." Leo was meticulous about his car. He hated any kind of clutter or unnecessary decoration. The fact that this sticker was there spoke volumes about who had been allowed to put it there. He glanced at me from the driver's seat, clearly waiting for me to react, to ask a question, to start a fight. In the past, whenever I noticed these little traces of Clara in our life, I would confront him, only to be scolded for being jealous or dismissed with a vague explanation. This time, however, I said nothing at all. 10 minutes into the silent drive, Leo slapped the steering wheel in frustration. "Are you mute or something?" he snapped. "If you have something you want to ask, just ask it." I turned to look at him, genuinely puzzled. "I don't have anything I want to ask." His anger seemed to deflate, leaving him looking stiff and uncomfortable. He drove in silence for a while before finally muttering, "That sticker was Clara's idea. I figured I was going to get the car washed soon anyway, so I didn't bother stopping her." He added quickly, "There's nothing going on between us. Stop acting so jealous over nothing." I gave a small, quiet nod. "All right," I said. The truth was, I no longer cared what happened between the two of them. Leo glanced at me again, continuing as if he needed to convince himself as much as me. "During the typhoon, I stayed at her place because I was worried about you being out on the road in that storm. Clara is still young, and she was all alone. I thought it was the right thing to do, to stay and keep her company." He paused, then delivered his usual line. "But I've always seen her as a younger sister. There's nothing more to it. You shouldn't overthink things." I nodded and offered him a gentle smile. "You two are like siblings. I understand. I trust you." In the past, I would have become enraged with jealousy, and he would have used those exact words to placate me. Now, hearing them from my own mouth, spoken with such sincerity, seemed to unnerve him completely. Leo's face darkened. He glared at me, his voice rising. "What is with that sarcastic tone? I've explained everything. What more do you want from me? Are you trying to push me away?" I sighed, feeling a deep sense of weariness. "No, really, I don't think you did anything wrong." But before I could finish my sentence, Leo slammed on the brakes, pulling the car over to the side of the road. "Get out!" he shouted. I stared at him, bewildered by his sudden rage. Still confused, I opened the door and stepped out of the car. I had only walked a few steps when I heard him call my name from behind me, but I didn't turn around. Instead, I quickened my pace. I genuinely couldn't understand what had triggered his outburst. If I was upset about his closeness with Clara, I was accused of being petty and jealous. If I accepted his explanation, he still exploded in anger. It was impossible to please him. The office was still about a kilometer away, so I decided to walk the rest of the way. I had only come in today for one reason, to hand in my resignation. I had stayed in this city, taken this dull job, all for Leo. I had turned down the opportunity to inherit my family's business, even cutting ties with my parents, just to be here with him. That all changed 3 days ago when the typhoon hit. I had driven out into the storm to pick Leo up from a work event, only for him to call and tell me he was going to stay with Clara instead, leaving me stranded halfway. On my way back home, the winds were so strong that a piece of falling debris struck me hard in the shoulder. That night, I couldn't sleep from the throbbing pain. As I lay awake, I saw Clara's latest social media post, a picture of her and Leo, looking cozy and safe indoors. That was the moment I realized it was time to let go. My body ached, and my spirit felt utterly crushed. Then, out of the blue, my parents called. "Maya," my mother said, her voice soft and full of concern. "We saw the news about the storm. Please don't go outside. Stay safe." Hearing her warm, worried voice broke something inside me. All the sadness and frustration I had been holding in for years came pouring out, and I could barely speak through my tears. The love I had clung to for so long had turned out to be nothing more than a joke. I told them everything, and I promised I would come home. I agreed to take my place in the family business. The next day, I booked a flight for the day after tomorrow. As for Leo and me, it was over. When I arrived at the office, I went straight to my manager, Mrs. Davis, and handed her my resignation letter. To my surprise, she didn't seem shocked at all. In fact, she looked at me with a serious expression and tried to talk me out of it. Maya, couples fight all the time. Just give it a few days and talk things out. Aren't you afraid Leo might never forgive you if you keep pushing him like this? That's when I understood. Leo had already called her. He told me to let you know, she said carefully, that he has blocked your number and won't be coming home tonight. He wants you to take some time to reflect on your actions. It finally hit me. He had taken our private argument and made it a public message, a form of punishment he had never used before. In the past, the thought of losing him would have terrified me. I would have swallowed my pride and run to him, begging for forgiveness. But this time, all I felt was a profound sense of how childish it all was. I explained to Mrs. Davis that we had already broken up and that my resignation was not a rash decision made in anger. I had thought it through carefully. Still, she seemed doubtful. You have loved Leo for so many years, Maya. Are you really ready to just walk away? I nodded without a hint of hesitation. Only then did she sigh and begin processing the paperwork. When I got back to the apartment, I expected to find it empty. Instead, I saw Leo standing in the living room. He was wearing a brand new suit and standing in front of Clara, showing it off with a charming smile. Clara, he asked, how do I look? Clara's eyes sparkled as she circled him like an adoring fan. You look amazing, Leo. When I grow up, I want to marry someone just like you. As I walked past them, Leo cast a quick glance in my direction before turning his full attention back to Clara. His voice, low and magnetic, carried clearly across the room. Clara, can you take a look at my tie? Something seems off about it. Clara gave me a smug, victorious glance before answering with mock hesitation. Senior, this might not be appropriate. Shouldn't you ask your wife to help you instead? Leo let out a cold, dismissive snort. Wife? What wife? There is no wife here. With that, he turned to Clara and, right in front of me, allowed her to adjust his tie. Then, he wrapped an arm around her shoulders and strolled out the front door with her. I knew he was doing it all to provoke me. If this had happened before, I probably would have lost my temper, tried to stop him, and started a fight. But now, strangely, I felt nothing at all, just an odd sense of calm detachment. In the middle of the night, I was woken by the sharp ring of my phone. It was Mark, one of Leo's closest friends. His voice sounded urgent. Maya, Leo is drunk. You need to come pick him up from Emperor KTV. He sent a photo along with the message. In the picture, Leo was slumped in Clara's arms, one arm wrapped affectionately around her neck. His friends had never liked me much. They always said I was too serious and plain, that I lacked excitement. Some of them had even openly wished that Leo and Clara would end up together. That was why it shocked me that Mark would even bother to call me. Before I could process it, I heard the sound of glass breaking in the background, followed by Leo shouting drunkenly. His voice was loud and slurred. Don't call her. I don't need that woman taking care of me. I'm spending the night at Clara's. Then, Mark hurriedly cut in, his voice low. Maya, if you don't get here soon, Leo is really going home with Clara. I let out a long yawn. Perfect, I said into the phone. Clara is very good at handling people like him. With that, I hung up and went back to sleep. I don't know how much time passed before I heard the front door creak open. A few moments later, my bedroom door burst open and Leo stormed in, his face clouded with anger. He pointed a finger at me and snapped, Maya, why didn't you come for me? Don't you care if something happens between me and Clara? Still groggy from sleep, I rubbed my eyes and sat up slowly, trying to collect my thoughts. I remembered all the times he used to stay out all night, ignoring my frantic calls. I would run all over the city looking for him, only to find him in some bar where he would scold me in front of all his friends. I could still recall the mocking stares of his buddies as he shouted at me, Maya, why are you so controlling? I need my space. But now, when I finally gave him that space, he came home demanding answers. I truly couldn't understand him. After a moment of silence, I replied calmly, You're a grown man, Leo. I trust that you know your own boundaries. Besides, you're entitled to your own life and your own choices. My steady, reasonable tone seemed to catch him completely off guard. He stared at me for a long while, his expression unreadable. Then, a sly smile tugged at the corners of his lips as he said softly, "You're sure you're not jealous?" He hesitated for a moment, then added, "That photo Mark sent, I just lost my balance and accidentally leaned on Clara." I yawned again and glanced at the clock. It was already 2 in the morning. Leo continued, his voice softer now. "If it really bothers you, maybe next time I go out drinking, I can take you with me." When I stayed silent, his voice grew sharper. "Do you really want me to stop seeing Clara altogether? Is that what you want?" I shook my head. "That's not what I meant. I believe you two are just friends." I yawned again and sighed. "I'm really tired. Can we talk about this tomorrow?" His face darkened with frustration. There was confusion in his eyes, as though he no longer understood the person sitting in front of him. Suddenly, he stepped forward, shrugged off his jacket, and climbed into bed beside me, wrapping his arms tightly around my body. He muttered, "Maya, what's going on with you? Is it because I've been ignoring you these past few days?" He kissed my neck and whispered, "Then let me make it up to you right now." His hands began to roam over my body. In the past, whenever Leo took the initiative like this, I would blush and quietly let it happen. But tonight, I stopped him. "Sorry," I said, my voice firm. "I'm exhausted. I'm just not in the mood." His expression froze. The next second, his face twisted with anger. "You don't know how lucky you are," he snapped. Then he got out of bed, threw the bedroom door open, and stormed out into the night. I heard the front door open and close moments later. It seemed Leo had left the apartment. In the past, whenever he lost his temper and left, I would have chased after him, coaxing and apologizing just to calm him down. But now, I simply turned off the light, lay back down, and went straight to sleep. Wherever Leo went, it was no longer my concern. I knew he would be fine. The next morning, when I woke up, he still hadn't returned. My flight home was scheduled for tomorrow. I had just finished packing my last suitcase when my best friend, Chloe, called to tell me she was organizing a farewell dinner for me. Back when I was dating Leo, he never allowed me to go out with my friends, and he especially disliked Chloe. He had a way of controlling every aspect of my life, and over the years, I had barely seen my friends. But now that I was leaving, I wanted to spend some proper time with them and say goodbye the right way. I checked into a hotel near the airport and then headed downstairs to the private dining room where the girls were already gathered. Most of the faces were familiar. We had known each other for years. The only unfamiliar person was a young man in his early 20s. Chloe smiled as she introduced him. "This is Ethan, my junior from university. He's moving back to Rivertown too, just like you. You two are from the same hometown, so I figured it would be good for you to connect." Everyone started teasing me, encouraging me to add the handsome newcomer on social media. I laughed and held out my phone, scanning his QR code without any hesitation. But just as I clicked the button to add him, I heard Leo's voice roar from behind me, full of rage. "Maya!" Startled, I turned around. Leo was walking into the room with Clara trailing right behind him. He strode up to me, his eyes flashing with anger, then turned sharply to face Ethan and announced in a harsh, possessive voice, "Sorry, but Maya is my girlfriend. I don't allow her to exchange contact information with other men." Ethan glanced at me, clearly taken aback. Before he could even speak, I calmly pressed add on my phone screen. The moment the confirmation notification appeared, Leo's face turned a stormy shade of purple. He didn't yell again, but the way he looked at me, it was as if he wanted to tear me apart with his eyes. The atmosphere in the room froze. Just then, Clara stepped forward, trying to ease the tension with her usual sugary sweet tone. "Maya, I spent the whole night comforting Leo. Please don't upset him again." She gave me a pointed look and added, "We just happened to see you on our way from dinner. He rushed over right away because he still cares about you. How could you just add another guy like that? That's not very ladylike, is it?" Leo's jaw tightened as he continued to glare at me. Clara, of course, kept going, pretending to be the peacemaker. "Maya, if you're uncomfortable with me being here, I can leave right now. I don't want to come between you and Leo." She had always played this same game, stirring up trouble while acting innocent. I used to fall for it every time, arguing with her and getting upset, while Leo would always take her side no matter what. But not tonight. Tonight, I just watched her as if I were watching a bad actor in a cheap play. I said casually, "Of course not. You're already here. Please, have a seat." I motioned for the others to sit down as well, and then I took the seat right next to Ethan. 2 empty seats remained at the table. Leo stood there with a grim face, his stare fixed on me. I knew what he wanted. He expected me to move and sit by his side, but I acted as if I hadn't noticed, pouring drinks for the others like nothing was wrong. After I had served everyone else, Leo finally lost his patience. He said in a low, tense voice, "Maya, come outside with me. I need to talk to you." I knew Leo didn't want to cause a scene in front of everyone. It would be too embarrassing for him. But I had no intention of playing along with his games anymore. I replied calmly, "If you have something to say, you can say it here." His expression grew even darker and the pressure in the room thickened. He started striding toward me, clearly about to grab my arm, but before he could, Chloe stood up quickly and stepped between us. She said firmly, "Leo, that's enough. We've all seen everything Maya has been through over the years. You and she have weathered so much together. I always thought you two would make it to the end." She let out a heavy sigh and raised her glass. "Maya stayed in this city for you, even after falling out with her family. And now you two have broken up. No matter what the reasons were, she is leaving tomorrow. You should try to part on good terms." Then she looked around at everyone and added with a gentle smile, "Since you and your new girlfriend are here tonight too, why not sit down and have a drink with us? Let's give Maya a proper farewell." One by one, the other girls stood up, raising their glasses and offering me words of encouragement and goodbye. I smiled, took my glass, and finished it in one gulp. I had just opened my mouth to respond when Leo suddenly lost his grip and knocked over his own glass, as if he had just heard something too shocking to believe. His eyes widened in disbelief as he looked at me and asked, "Maya, you're going back to River City? Why didn't you tell me?" Then his voice grew sharper, laced with a raw emotion I hadn't heard before. "I'm your boyfriend. Why am I the last one to know? Do I even matter to you at all?" Gone was Leo's usual calm and polished demeanor. He was clearly agitated, almost desperate as he confronted me in front of everyone. For a moment, I felt disoriented. Was he truly afraid that I would leave? In our entire relationship, Leo had always held the upper hand, always been the one in control. I never imagined there would come a day when he would lose his composure because of me. But I quickly understood the truth. To him, I was like a pet he could play with and control whenever he wanted. The fact that I was walking away on my own terms must have shaken his sense of power to its core. I looked at him quietly and replied, "You blocked my number. How was I supposed to tell you?" Leo's face tightened. He quickly tried to justify himself, his voice strained. "But even if you couldn't reach me, you could have contacted one of my friends. You deliberately kept this from me. I've already been patient enough with you. Who gave you the right to break up with me without saying a word and just leave like that?" That accusation left me momentarily speechless. His twisted logic was nothing new to me, but it still managed to catch me off guard. The others around the table looked uncomfortable, exchanging uneasy glances, unsure of how to intervene. I offered a quiet apology to everyone present, then looked past Leo and addressed Clara directly. "Please take your boyfriend outside." Clara froze, clearly not expecting that reaction from me. When she didn't move, I asked again, my voice firmer this time. "Do you want me to call security?" Leo, now feeling utterly humiliated and ignored, stormed out of the room in a fury. Clara quickly followed after him. I walked over and calmly closed the door, then turned to the group with a lighthearted smile. "Well, now that it's quiet again, let's keep drinking." Chloe looked at me with concern and whispered, "Did you two really break up?" I nodded. She hesitated, as if unsure whether to continue, then said, "Honestly, when you first got together with Leo, I always felt like something wasn't right. He's too controlling, too arrogant. Maybe it's a good thing you broke up. You're the only daughter of a wealthy family in River City. You grew up with everything. You even have family-owned mines. But you left all of that behind and lived through years of hardship here just for him. Now it's time to go back and enjoy your life. There are plenty of good young men out there waiting for someone like you." I knew she was trying to comfort me. Everyone close to me had witnessed how much I had sacrificed for Leo over the years. A sudden breakup followed by a move back home. Anyone would assume I had suffered deeply and was struggling to recover. But I was the only one who knew the truth. A heart doesn't break overnight. The time he spent at Clara's place during the typhoon was just the final straw. Over the past 5 years, Leo had hurt me in countless small and large ways. Sometimes he would spend my birthday with Clara. Other times, he would bring her along on our dates. And those were just the obvious slights. I had compromised again and again, trying to soothe myself, trying to forgive. But everything has a limit, and once that limit is crossed, leaving becomes the only logical choice. That night, my girlfriends kept me company, and we drank quite a bit. Ethan, the sweet junior from Chloe's university, kindly kept pouring us water and checking to make sure we were okay. The girls teased him a little, and the mood eventually lightened. When it was time to leave, I decided to step outside to buy a bottle of water from a nearby convenience store. But as I exited the hotel, I saw Leo sitting on a stone bench by the entrance, smoking a cigarette. The moment he saw me, he stubbed it out and rushed over. His voice was tense and filled with a barely restrained anger. "Why didn't you come out to find me? This is the second time you've done this." I replied calmly, "Your girlfriend already went after you." At the word girlfriend, his expression turned even more agitated. He snapped, "You're just jealous. Admit it. You're jealous, but you won't say it. There is nothing going on between me and Clara. Nothing at all. How many times do I have to tell you before you believe me? She came out earlier and I sent her away." His raised voice started drawing attention from people walking by. I grabbed his arm and led him to a quieter corner. "Calm down, Leo. What's done is done. We have already broken up. I don't care if it's Clara Shaw or Clara Morgan you're with. None of it concerns me anymore." Leo stared at me, stunned, as if he were hearing the words, "We broke up," for the very first time. After a long silence, he finally asked, his voice shaking slightly, "So, you're really breaking up with me?" "Yes," I said, my voice clear and without hesitation. That simple word seemed to cause him more pain than I ever expected. He stood in silence for a while, then asked in a hoarse voice, "When is your flight?" "Tomorrow." "Cancel it. Come home with me first. Let's talk this through, please." Leo grabbed my hand, trying hard to keep his emotions in check, but I shook my head and said softly, "No, I've already moved my things out of the apartment." He froze, completely stunned. He clearly had not expected that in just one day I had made up my mind and acted on it so decisively. He opened his mouth to say something, but his phone rang before he could get a word out. The moment he answered, I heard Clara's familiar, pitiful voice on the other end. "Senior, I was in a car accident. Can you come? I'm at the city hospital. I'm really scared." The moment she mentioned the accident, Leo's expression changed. Panic flickered in his eyes. I stood there feeling a bitter kind of clarity. If she were really hurt, how could she still manage to speak in that soft, delicate tone? But of course, Leo always fell for her act. As expected, he looked at me apologetically and said, "Maya, I have to go to the hospital. Clara has no family here. Please wait for me. Don't leave. I mean it, just wait." I gently pulled my hand from his grip. "Go," I said. "She needs you more than I do." Leo looked at me for a long moment, then turned and left without another word of hesitation. It was a scene I had watched play out far too many times. Clara would always find some excuse, some emergency to draw him away. And Leo would always fall for it. I used to get angry. I used to cry. But now, I simply felt relieved. After buying my bottle of water, I returned to the hotel and went to bed early. At 2 in the morning, I woke up, got ready, and headed for the airport. Before I left, I checked my phone. Leo had sent a message. "Please wait for me. Do not go. Things are complicated on Clara's side, and I have to stay with her. Just rest at the hotel for now. I'll talk to you face to face once I get back. Whatever you do, do not fly home alone. I promise I will be there in no more than an hour." An hour later, the plane was already in the air. Same old promises, same empty words. I had heard them all before. This time, I didn't bother to play along. I went straight to the airport. Just as I was about to board, my phone rang. It was Leo. He launched right in, using the same controlling tone he always did. Maya, where are you? I told you to wait for me. Why aren't you at the hotel? Then his voice grew sharp. Don't tell me you ignored my messages. Clara was in a car accident. Do you really expect me to leave her and run to you? He paused for a breath, then quickly added, Forget it. I checked. You haven't boarded yet. Just wait at the airport. I'll come get you. I saw the boarding line moving forward. I replied flatly, No need. I'm getting on the plane now. I hung up before he could say anything else, though I could still hear him calling my name as the call ended. I couldn't help but feel a little amused. If he had truly wanted to keep me from leaving, he would have come to the hotel hours ago. Why wait until the last possible second? It wasn't that I still had feelings for him. I was just sick of his insincerity. 4 hours later, the plane landed in River City. My parents were already waiting outside the airport to pick me up. I hadn't seen them in such a long time. My mother had more lines around her eyes, and my father's back was noticeably more stooped. My nose tingled with emotion. I had fought with them so many times over Leo, so many harsh words and slammed doors. My father and I had even stopped speaking for a while. And yet, in the end, it was my parents who were here to welcome me home. I quickly wiped away my tears and hurried over to greet them with a smile. My mother reached out to wipe her own tears and gave me a light, playful slap on the arm. You little rascal, you finally came back? Then we returned to the family villa together. My grandfather was already waiting at the door. He didn't scold me. He just smiled and said warmly, It's enough that you're home. After we finished our first family dinner together in years, I went back to my old room and immediately noticed that my phone was flooded with missed calls from Leo. Just as I was about to block his number, the phone started ringing again. When I answered, Leo's voice came through, hoarse and tired. Maya, you really went back home. I replied with a vague hum, not wanting to engage. He continued quickly, But I told you I would come back. I thought we could sit down and talk things through. Even if I made mistakes, you should give me a chance to make it right. We've known each other for 7 years, been together for 5. How can you be this heartless? Leo always did this, turning every conversation around to make me feel guilty. I had no patience left for it, so I cut him off. Leo, we are already broken up. Could you please stop bothering me? There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I could hear nothing but the faint sound of him smoking, drawing in breath after breath. In all the years we had been together, this might have been the harshest thing I had ever said to him. Even I was a little stunned by my own directness. Leo recovered quickly, his voice turning sharp and restless. I don't care. I don't agree to this breakup. It's not happening. I'm only giving you 3 days. After that, you are coming back here. If you don't, I will come and find you. You figure out what you want to do. He hung up. I frowned. This didn't feel like the Leo I knew. Based on everything I knew about him, he had never cared this much about anything. Especially not when Clara had just supposedly been in a car accident. He would never willingly leave her side. Still, I pushed the thought aside. For the next 3 days, my father encouraged me to relax and unwind at home before starting at the family business. I spent my time shopping with my mom and catching up over tea with old friends. Life felt easy and full again. One afternoon, as we sat at a cafe, one of my childhood friends sighed and said, Maya, life would have been so much better if you had come back earlier. Why did you insist on staying out there, putting yourself through all of that? Her words mirrored what I had come to realize deep down. For all those years, I had forced myself to endure a life that brought me nothing but pain. But thankfully, I had finally woken up. The good part of my life was still ahead of me. One day, while I was playing chess with my grandfather, he smiled and told me he wanted to introduce me to someone. The young man was the grandson of one of his old military friends and was now living right here in River City. He'll be coming by today, Grandpa said with a chuckle. Forget that last guy you were with. This young man is far better looking than your ex. I had no interest in romance at the moment, but I also couldn't bring myself to reject my grandfather's kindness. I told him that if the young man came by, we could certainly meet as friends. While we were still chatting, one of the house staff rushed in and said, Miss Maya, there's someone named Leo here asking to see you. Leo? I had tried so hard these past 3 days to erase that name from my mind, but hearing it out loud again sent a strange, faint flutter through my chest. He had actually come all the way to River City to find me. I was about to tell the staff to say I wasn't home, but my grandfather spoke up with a gentle smile. Maya, if something needs to be ended, it's best to end it clearly. His words made me pause. He was right. If Leo had come this far, it was better to speak to him face to face and bring a true end to all of this. I stepped outside and immediately saw him. Leo was standing under a tall tree, wearing a crisp white button-down shirt, his hands behind his back, and a laptop bag slung over his shoulder. For a moment, it was as if time had turned back. He looked exactly like he had when we first met. I stood there in a daze, feeling the stir of long-buried memories, but it only lasted for a second. 5 years of one-sided devotion and 5 years of swallowing my pride had left deeper scars than any fond memory could ever cover. I remembered clearly how I had once pleaded with him to wear that same white shirt again, just once, because it reminded me of when we first met. But Leo had rolled his eyes and snapped, "Maya, are you a child? That's the shirt I hate the most." After that, I never dared bring it up again. After all this time, Leo was wearing the shirt again, but now it no longer meant anything to me. From a distance, I heard Leo calling out, "Maya!" He jogged toward me, but the face that once held a boyish charm was no longer the same. Time had changed him, and so had our relationship. He reached for my hand, but I quickly pulled away. A flicker of disappointment crossed his face. He tried to coax me with a soft voice. "Still upset? Come on, don't be mad. I came all the way here just to see you." Then, with a bit of excitement, he added, "Guess what I brought you?" He reached into his bag and, with an air of great mystery, pulled out a limited edition collectible doll. "Do you like it?" I was surprised, yes, but not touched. What I felt was more bittersweet than joyful, so he had known all along the kind of things I liked. He had simply chosen not to care before. I remembered a time when we had gone shopping together. I had bought Leo piles of new clothes and gifts without hesitation. As we passed a shop window, I spotted a set of collectible dolls I had wanted for ages. The full set cost around $2,000, but Leo had frowned and stopped me. "Even Clara doesn't waste money on this kind of stuff," he had said coldly. "You're too old to be playing with toys." Then he had added with irritation, "All you ever do is focus on these pointless things. Why not save that money to support my business plans instead?" I hadn't dared to argue. I just nodded quietly, shelving my own interests, and never bought another collectible while he was around. Now, finally, he was giving me one as a gift, but it no longer brought me any happiness. It was far too late. When I made no move to accept it, Leo frowned. "What's wrong?" I replied softly, "I don't like them anymore." Leo was taken aback. His expression faltered. He tried to recover, forcing a smile. "Then tell me what you like now. I'll get it for you." If this had been the old me, his grand gesture would have melted my anger. I would have forgiven him for everything, but not now. That time had passed. I said gently, "It's fine. You should go back. Clara is still at the hospital, right? You should be taking care of her." I meant nothing by it. I just said what I thought was the logical thing for him to do. But Leo's face suddenly clouded over, his tone changing as the humble act dropped away. "Maya, do you have to talk like that? You have no idea how exhausting this is for me. I already told you there is nothing going on between me and Clara. Why do you keep doubting me? I even left her alone at the hospital just to come see you. What more do you want?" I stayed calm and met his eyes. "Then don't waste your time here. Go back to her." Leo looked stunned, and then his expression hardened into anger. "Maya, are you done yet? If you keep acting like this, I swear I will go back and be with Clara. I will leave you for good." I looked at him and said plainly, "Well then, congratulations." I turned to walk away. That was when Leo suddenly panicked. He grabbed my arm and hurried to explain, "Wait, that's not what I meant." Just then, a clear voice called from outside the gate. "Excuse me, is this the Jensen residence?" I turned around and saw someone familiar. It was Ethan Pierce, the young man I had met at the dinner with Chloe. I shook off Leo's hand and walked over to greet Ethan. That was when I found out he was the one my grandfather had been trying to introduce me to all along. What a coincidence, I smiled and said, "Come on in. My grandfather was just talking about you." Ethan nodded politely, but his eyes soon shifted to Leo, who stood stiffly off to the side, his face tight with frustration, like someone nursing an invisible wound. If this had been before, I would have run to comfort Leo, to try to make him smile again. I would have been terrified of upsetting him. But now, I felt nothing at all. I knew this was just another one of his tricks to get my attention. So I walked right past Leo with Ethan by my side, not even glancing in Leo's direction. Only when we reached the front door did I hear Leo call out behind us, his voice laced with a desperate edge. "Maya!" I didn't turn back. I just smiled at Ethan and led him inside. I brought Ethan in to meet my grandfather. The three of us chatted for a while, and then my grandfather, as thoughtful as ever, found an excuse to leave us alone. Now that it was just the two of us, I felt a bit awkward. After all, both times I had met him, I had been in the middle of an unpleasant encounter with Leo. That kind of thing would probably make any man uncomfortable. Ethan was the first to break the silence. He asked gently, "Earlier, it seemed like Mr. Vance was truly trying to win you back. Do you think you'll change your mind?" At the dinner party, my friends had shared quite a few stories about Leo and me, half drunk and sentimental, and Ethan had heard it all. I shook my head and replied, "Some things can't be undone. What's spilled can't be gathered up again." Ethan looked at me for a few seconds, then suddenly smiled. He said, "Time changes everything, people included. When love ends, it can also be the beginning of something new." I didn't quite grasp the full meaning of his words, but the way he looked at me was soft, almost tender. After a bit more small talk, I took Ethan for a walk around the garden outside the villa. We both seemed to understand without needing to say it that we wouldn't mention Leo again. Our conversation flowed easily, drifting from one pleasant topic to another. But just as I was beginning to relax, my phone rang, breaking the harmony between us. To my surprise, it was Clara calling. The moment I picked up, her voice came through, filled with a sharp, accusatory anger. "Maya, what did you do to Leo?" she snapped. "He went to Rivertown looking for you, and now no one can reach him. He loves you so much, and even if you don't love him anymore, you don't have to hurt him like this. You heartless woman," she shouted into the phone. But what struck me most was one sentence. Leo had gone missing. We had only been apart for 3 hours. He was a grown man with a phone. It seemed impossible for something serious to have happened so quickly. I hung up, not bothering to listen to the rest of Clara's rant. But as night fell and the clock crept past midnight, I came across something unexpected. Clara had posted a missing person alert on her social media feed, and it hadn't been deleted. I stared at the screen, unsure of what to believe. At that moment, I received a message from Ethan. He wrote, "Do you need help finding Mr. Vance?" I remembered what my grandfather had once told me. Ethan's family had strong connections, and they were known for getting things done quickly. Leo and I may have ended things, and the feelings were gone, but after all those years together, I still didn't want to see him get into any real trouble. So, I said yes, and asked Ethan to help. Not even 30 minutes later, I stumbled across a new post. This time, it was from Clara and Leo together. They had officially announced their relationship online. In the photo, they were in an airport lounge, locked in a warm embrace, their fingers intertwined. The caption read, "I will always wait right here for you to turn around, to the man I love most." I stared at the image, unsure what to feel. Disgust, irony, pity. All I knew was that it was laughable and maybe a little pathetic. I immediately sent Ethan a message to apologize, telling him not to bother looking anymore because Leo had already gone back. Ethan said nothing in return, but I couldn't help feeling like I had been played again. It wasn't the first time. In the past, whenever I upset Leo, he would punish me with elaborate lies. Once, he pretended to be terribly sick just to make me suffer, telling me he had a high fever and needed breakfast from his favorite spot 30 kilometers away. I rushed through a torrential rainstorm to get it for him. By the time I returned, drenched and shivering, I felt sick myself. He had just sneered and said, "You're really that gullible? I said I was sick, and you believed me? Why didn't you just look at me and see for yourself?" Thinking back on it now, I wished I could go back in time and slap myself. I had been too humble, too willing to throw away my dignity. But that was the last time. After that night, I returned to my normal life. I thought Leo would finally disappear from my world, but a few days later, I received a call from his friend Mark. "Maya, are you still mad about that post Leo made with Clara?" he asked. "He only did it because he was angry with you. You didn't really believe it, did you?" I let out a small, tired laugh. "Mark, Leo and I have been over for a long time. Do you really think any of this still matters to me?" Mark choked for a moment, then gave an awkward laugh as he tried to smooth things over, repeating the usual phrases about how many years we had been together and how Leo hadn't meant to hurt me. I only responded with vague nods and half-hearted smiles, my attitude indifferent from start to finish. Eventually, he stopped talking. Then, from the other room on his end of the line, came the unmistakable sound of a door being slammed shut. I knew right away that Leo had been eavesdropping on the call. Over the next few days, I began to notice a strange pattern. My social media feed was suddenly flooded with updates about Leo and Clara. Photos of them on dates, posts about the meals Clara had lovingly prepared for him, smiling selfies in places that were once special to me and Leo. All of it came from mutual friends who had once known me as Leo's partner. But I stayed quiet and unmoved. I poured all of my focus into taking over the family business and continued getting to know Ethan, who had become a steady, comforting presence in my life. Then, about a month later, Leo sent me a long, rambling message. It read like a heartfelt letter, tracing every detail of our relationship, from the first day we met to where we stood now. He laid bare all his emotions, his regrets, his realizations. But I never read the whole thing. I simply didn't have the time or the energy. A few days after that, Leo did something even more dramatic. He flew across the country, came straight to my office, and waited outside all night in the middle of a torrential rainstorm. When he saw me the next morning, he rushed toward me and wrapped his arms around me tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. "Maya," he cried out, his voice raw and broken. "Why do you never get angry no matter what I do? You love me, I know you do. I don't know what else to do. I'm lost. Tell me what I need to do so you'll forgive me, please." I gently pushed him away, putting a clear space between us. Then I said quietly, "Because I don't love you anymore, Leo. If you truly want my forgiveness, then please, do not ever appear in my life again." Without looking back, I stepped past him and walked toward Ethan, who was waiting for me in the distance. Later, as I drove with Ethan to our date, we passed by Leo. He was still standing there in the pouring rain, screaming at the sky in a fit of despair. His cries were filled with the agony of someone who had lost something he had only just realized was irreplaceable. But that same feeling of helpless, silent heartbreak was something I had lived with little by little for 5 long years. Now, at last, my night was over. The morning had come, and I was walking into a new day, hand in hand with someone who truly loved me.